Jade Cargill just dropped the most explosive bombshell in WWE history, and the company is in full damage control mode. The former AEW Women's World Champion has completely destroyed Naomi's reputation by revealing that her entire championship reign was built on cheating, match fixing, and backstage corruption that goes all the way to the top of WWE management. This isn't just another wrestling controversy, this is a systematic fraud that has deceived millions of fans worldwide. The woman who calls herself the Glow has been living the biggest lie in sports entertainment, using underhanded tactics, referee payoffs, and management favoritism to steal victories that rightfully belong to more deserving competitors. Jade Cargill's accusations are so detailed and damning that they're going to end careers, trigger investigations, and expose WWE's corrupt booking practices like never before. But here's what's going to make you absolutely furious. WWE executives knew about Naomi's cheating for months and not only allowed it to continue but actively helped cover it up because they were desperate to push their diversity agenda regardless of merit or fairness. They turned professional wrestling into a scripted fraud to serve their political objectives. Before you even think about clicking away from this video, let me tell you something that will blow your mind. Jade Cargill has receipts, documentation, video evidence, and witness testimony that proves beyond any doubt that Naomi's championship victories were predetermined through illegal match manipulation that makes a mockery of everything wrestling claims to represent. The corruption that Jade Cargill has exposed runs so deep through WWE that it's going to require a complete overhaul of their referee system, backstage management structure, and quality control processes. We're talking about systematic fraud that has affected dozens of matches and potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars in betting outcomes. This scandal gets exponentially worse the deeper you investigate, because Naomi's cheating wasn't limited to just championship matches. She's been using these corrupt tactics throughout her entire WWE career, stealing opportunities from more talented wrestlers who played by the rules while she gamed the system. Let me break down exactly what Jade Cargill revealed in her explosive interview, because the level of detail and evidence she provided proves that this isn't just gossip or professional jealousy, this is legitimate whistleblowing that could trigger federal investigations into sports fraud and corruption. According to Cargill's testimony, the cheating operation began shortly after Naomi's return to WWE when creative executives realized she wasn't capable of winning matches legitimately against the caliber of competition they wanted to book her against. Rather than adjust their plans, they decided to rig the matches to achieve their predetermined outcomes. The first documented instance of cheating involved a referee who was allegedly paid extra money to miss obvious rule violations during Naomi's matches while calling phantom infractions against her opponents. Multiple wrestlers noticed the pattern but were told to keep quiet or face punishment from management. Jade Cargill revealed that she personally witnessed referee Tim White receiving an envelope of cash from a WWE producer before her scheduled match against Naomi, with explicit instructions about which wrestler should win and how to manipulate the outcome without making it too obvious to television audiences. The referee corruption extends far beyond just missed calls and selective enforcement. According to Cargill's evidence, referees were given special hand signals to communicate with Naomi during matches, allowing her to know exactly when to execute moves, when to kick out of pin attempts, and when to make comebacks for maximum dramatic effect. But the cheating operation wasn't limited to just referee manipulation. Jade Cargill has documented evidence of ring announcements being altered to favor Naomi, commentary teams being given specific talking points to downplay her opponent's strengths, and even sound effects being enhanced to make her moves seem more impactful than they actually were. The most damaging revelation involves the discovery of hidden communication devices that allowed backstage producers to feed Naomi information during live matches, including her opponent's planned moves, the referee's instructions, and crowd reaction cues that gave her an unfair advantage in adapting her performance. Cargill's investigation revealed that Naomi was also receiving advance copies of match scripts and booking decisions that were supposed to be kept secret, allowing her to prepare specific counters and responses while her opponents were working blind with only basic match structure information. The medical staff was also allegedly compromised, with team physicians being pressured to clear Naomi for competition even when she wasn't physically prepared, while simultaneously being encouraged to find minor injuries or issues that could sideline her opponents at crucial moments. Equipment tampering was another component of the cheating operation, with ring ropes being adjusted to different tensions depending on which wrestler's signature moves relied on rope running sequences, and turnbuckle padding being modified to affect the impact of moves that typically used the corner as a setup. Jade Cargill provided documentation showing that Naomi's entrance music was deliberately played at higher volumes and with enhanced bass frequencies designed to create a more impressive atmosphere, while her opponent's entrances were subtly diminished through audio mixing that made them seem less significant. The catering and backstage facilities were manipulated to give Naomi advantages in preparation and recovery, with her being provided with premium nutrition and hydration options while her opponents received standard or sometimes subpar refreshments that could affect their in-ring performance. Travel arrangements were also part of the systematic advantage, with Naomi receiving priority booking for flights, hotels, and ground transportation that ensured she was well rested and prepared, while her opponents often faced delays, cancellations, and inferior accommodations that affected their physical readiness. But perhaps the most disturbing revelation is that WWE's social media team was actively manipulating online metrics to create false narratives about fan support for Naomi while simultaneously suppressing or deleting comments that praised her opponents or questioned her victories. The video evidence that Jade Cargill obtained includes footage of backstage meetings where WWE executives explicitly discussed how to manufacture Naomi's success through systematic cheating while maintaining plausible deniability if the corruption was ever exposed. Audio recordings reveal conversations between WWE officials and referees discussing specific match outcomes and the methods that should be used to ensure Naomi's victory without making the manipulation too obvious to viewers, fans, or wrestling media critics. Financial records show unusual payment patterns to referees, announcers, and backstage personnel that coincide with Naomi's biggest matches, suggesting a systematic bribery operation designed to secure favorable treatment throughout her championship run. The psychological manipulation extended to Naomi's opponents, with several wrestlers reporting that they were given false information about match finishes, told to modify their movesets to make Naomi look stronger, or pressured to sell her offense more dramatically than they would for other competitors. Jade Cargill revealed that she was personally approached by WWE producers who offered her financial incentives to cooperate with predetermined outcomes that would favor Naomi, essentially asking her to participate in match fixing that would compromise her integrity as a competitor. The corruption even affected merchandise and marketing, with Naomi's products being given premium placement and promotion while her competitors' items were relegated to less visible sections of WWE's online and retail stores, creating artificial demand that supported false narratives about her popularity. Training facilities and practice sessions were manipulated to give Naomi advanced knowledge of her opponent's new moves and strategies while keeping her own preparations secret, creating an unfair information advantage that affected match outcomes and storyline development. The referee training program was allegedly altered to emphasize favoritism toward certain wrestlers, with new officials being coached on how to create advantages for preferred performers while maintaining the appearance of fair and impartial officiating. Medical clearance procedures were corrupted to ensure Naomi could compete even when questionable, while her opponents faced additional scrutiny and requirements that could prevent them from participating in crucial matches at key moments in storyline development. Equipment inspection processes were compromised, with Naomi's gear receiving minimal scrutiny while her opponents faced detailed examinations that could delay their preparation or result in last-minute equipment changes that affected their comfort and performance levels. The makeup and wardrobe departments were instructed to enhance Naomi's appearance through professional techniques while providing minimal or standard services to her opponents, creating visual advantages that subconsciously influenced audience perception and reaction. Jade Cargill documented instances where Naomi was given access to advanced training equipment and techniques that were denied to other wrestlers, including specialized coaching that gave her advantages in developing counters to specific opponents' signature moves and finishing sequences. The interview scheduling and media appearances were manipulated to give Naomi maximum exposure and positive coverage while limiting her opponents' opportunities to build their own fan bases and create compelling storylines that could overshadow her manufactured success. Catering timing and meal quality were adjusted to ensure Naomi received optimal nutrition at precisely the right times to maximize her energy and performance, while her opponents often faced subpar food options or poorly timed meal schedules that affected their stamina. Transportation logistics were designed to minimize Naomi's travel fatigue while maximizing the physical and mental stress on her opponents through inconvenient flight times, longer travel distances, and less comfortable accommodations that accumulated into competitive disadvantages. The revelation that WWE's medical team was providing Naomi with performance-enhancing recovery treatments that weren't available to other wrestlers raises serious questions about competitive fairness and the integrity of championship competitions. Sound mixing during live events was allegedly adjusted to amplify crowd reactions during Naomi's offensive sequences while diminishing audience responses to her opponent's moves, creating false impressions about fan support and match momentum. Jade Cargill provided evidence that Naomi was receiving advance warning about surprise attacks, run-ins, and other storyline elements that should have been kept secret, allowing her to prepare responses that made her appear more skilled and adaptable than she actually was. The lighting design for Naomi's matches was optimized to highlight her strengths and minimize her weaknesses, while her opponents often performed under less flattering conditions that made their offense appear less impactful and their mistakes more obvious to television audiences. Camera angles and shot selection were biased toward making Naomi's moves look more devastating while downplaying the effectiveness of her opponent's offense through unfavorable positioning and timing that affected viewer perception of match quality and competitiveness. The systematic nature of this cheating operation required coordination between multiple departments and personnel levels, indicating that the corruption extends throughout WWE's organizational structure and represents a fundamental breakdown in competitive integrity. Security personnel were allegedly instructed to provide enhanced protection for Naomi while being less vigilant about threats to her opponents, creating safety disparities that could affect wrestlers' confidence and willingness to take risks during matches. The revelation that commentary teams received specific instructions to minimize Naomi's opponent's achievements while exaggerating her own contribution shows how deeply the propaganda effort penetrated WWE's broadcast presentation and audience manipulation. Quality control processes were corrupted to ensure that any footage showing Naomi's mistakes or weak performances was edited out of highlight packages, while her opponent's errors were preserved and sometimes emphasized to create false narratives about skill levels. Jade Cargill's investigation revealed that fan voting and interactive elements were manipulated through bot networks and fake accounts designed to create artificial support for Naomi while suppressing genuine fan preferences that might favor her opponents. The evidence shows that Naomi's social media engagement was artificially inflated through purchased followers, fake comments, and coordinated campaigns designed to create false impressions about her popularity and fan support compared to more organically popular wrestlers. Merchandise sales data was allegedly falsified to support claims about Naomi's marketability and fan appeal, with artificial purchase orders and inflated numbers being used to justify her continued push despite actual sales figures that didn't support the narrative. The systematic cheating operation that Jade Cargill has exposed represents the largest sports fraud scandal in professional wrestling history, with implications that extend far beyond just WWE and could affect the entire industry's credibility and legal standing. Law enforcement agencies are reportedly reviewing Cargill's evidence to determine whether criminal charges should be filed for fraud, conspiracy, and corruption that may have affected betting markets and violated federal regulations governing sports entertainment. The financial impact of this scandal could be devastating for WWE, with potential lawsuits from defrauded fans, competitive wrestlers who were denied fair opportunities, and betting organizations that relied on the assumption of legitimate competition. But perhaps most importantly, Jade Cargill's courage in exposing this corruption could finally force the wrestling industry to implement real oversight and accountability measures that prevent future scandals and protect the integrity of competitive outcomes. As this story continues to develop, it's becoming clear that the ramifications will extend far beyond just Naomi's individual career and could fundamentally change how professional wrestling operates and regulates itself to maintain public trust. Your engagement with this content is crucial for ensuring that this story receives the attention it deserves and that WWE faces real consequences for their systematic fraud rather than being allowed to sweep it under the rug through corporate damage control. Share this video to spread awareness about the corruption that Jade Cargill has exposed, comment with your thoughts on how this affects wrestling's credibility, and subscribe to WrestlingNewsCC for continued coverage as this scandal unfolds.